Welcome to Deciphering Growth, the show that explores mental health from every angle. We bring you conversations with personal opinions, stories, and practical tips. We aim to break down the stigma and help you live your best life. So please sit back and let's dive in. Before we begin, we want to remind our listeners that this podcast represents the opinions of Tiffany Graves, Eric Stone, and the show's guests. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Please consult a healthcare professional for any medical questions. The views and opinions expressed are our own and do not represent those of our workplaces. Listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content does not establish a doctor-patient relationship.
All right, we are back.
I know. Good morning, everyone. We are excited to be here with you all. We are going to talk more about trauma, of course, because you know who you're listening to, hopefully, or you clicked on the wrong podcast. So just slide on out and find the. No, I'm just
No, no,
kidding.
no, no, just stay.
No, don't
Just
stay.
stay.
Stay. We want you to stay. Um, we appreciate everybody that's been here with us just the last few episodes. I know we've been kind of talking about some heavier topics. So today we're going to talk about just kind of some of the things. It's a real big buzzword, trauma-informed care. I'm sure a lot of us have looked up maybe a nonprofit or a mental health organization or even a therapy practice, and you'll see this word like trauma informed, trauma informed, trauma informed. And so Tiffany, I think, had a great idea of like us breaking down what does that mean to be trauma informed at the program level. So Tiffany, I want to make sure you get a chance to uh, set the scene as well.
Yeah. So setting the scene, my kind of thought process, since you've actually worked with recovery programs, I have not. Um, I just wanted to mention that when we talk about recovery, especially from a substance use or behavioral addiction perspective, it's impossible to ignore that role of trauma, both big T and little t trauma. Trauma doesn't just increase vulnerability to addiction and other unhealthy behaviors. It often drives the way that people are choosing to escape from things. Um, so I guess like I did have a lot of questions for you since you like I've worked some of these programs, have a lot of information on this program. So how do program creators or program runners or program facilitators work to create recovery spaces that don't just help people like stop using, but also help them support healing the pain that put them, I don't want to say put them, that like kind of led them there in the first place.
So what do these trauma informed programs do to help support people with substance use? Is that I want to make sure I get the question
From
right.
a
I'm sorry.
trauma informed, yeah, yes, but from
Okay.
a trauma informed lens, like what are like programs that you're like, these are great trauma informed lens programs, and these are like not so great trauma informed.
Oh gosh. Okay. That is spicy. I'm gonna sip my coffee. That is a spicy one.
I brought my spice today.
I like it. We like spice. Just Skyline, not Gold Star. And if you like Gold Star, I'm
Wait,
sorry. I also came.
those
Wait,
aren't
you like Gold?
spicy.
I know, but I'm just saying I like Skyline Spice better than Gold Star. You
I,
saying you like Gold?
no,
Okay.
I
I
might
was
get
like,
I might get shunned by Cincinnati, but I'm not. I don't like any of those chilies. Like if I want chili, I'm going to Texas.
see, you gotta at least have a dog in the fight, Tiffany. You know what I mean? You gotta at least be involved with one of them. Where it's like you gotta at least stake a claim. I mean, you don't
They're,
really.
in
We
my opinion, they're all too sugary and sweet. I prefer like Texas style chili,
well,
but
that's fair, but that's my culture, so I'm irrational about it. But we're a trauma informed podcast, so I'm not gonna actually flame
you're
you
not
with
gonna go
shame.
at me.
No, not today. Not today. Um, Okay, but so this is tough. So I want to make sure I won't like say, oh, this one is bad, this one is good. But just maybe it'd be helpful just to pull from Samsha's trauma-informed approach. So they are an organization that a lot of counselors to organizations aspire. They do a lot of different resources, and so they set a lot of standards for care for mental health and substance use disorders. So I'm going to just list some of the core principles of trauma informed care: safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration, empowerment, voice, cultural, historical, and gender issues are addressed actively. So I just want to maybe have that be the scene, but kind of talk about what that looks like, if that's okay with you, Tiffany. Like, safety is not just a physical safety. Okay, we have enough air in this building to not worry about a heat stroke. We aren't worried about the walls coming down. We're not worried about someone coming in and hurting us. But there's also emotional safety. And so one of the best examples, and I won't say where I worked, but I worked in organizations where not every staff member was being trauma informed. They weren't using person centered language. They weren't maybe noticing that someone looks like they're having a panic attack. They didn't think, wow, this person's very angry. I wonder what's going on. They took it defensively, took it personally. And so that safety is for the clients, but also we need staff and, fellow healthcare workers to feel safe, to be trauma informed. Uh, so there's some examples we can think about with like urgent care workers and nurses, and you have to have enough support. You have to be in a system that is safe and supportive to feel safe. I know I can go on a lot of tangents, but I thought maybe I'd just break some of this down a little bit. When we're talking about trustworthiness and transparency, it's just clarity. Speak to someone the way you want to be spoken to. Are you being talked over? No one wants that experience. That's not helpful. Is there honesty? Is there some discussion on something? The answer may still be one that someone may not like, but is there a discussion? Is it a respectful conversation? Are the voices of those with lived experiences included in the design of the program? Or is it just someone maybe not through those experiences and that feedback's not being included? Power differentials are addressed, and there's a goal of trying to collaborate as much as possible. Um, Maybe just the last two, just empowerment, giving options for choices, making sure that people have a say in their care, a say in the group even. I've led many groups. I would argue that all of them have gone better if my group has decided to help me lead which direction we go. We can still be in a curriculum, we can still be on a topic, but if something's going on for people in the room, maybe how they're seeing it, that will help create more engagement and make it more relevant. And that is way more neurodivergent affirming than just sticking to a script and not including everyone in the room. Last but certainly not least, talking about biases, just knowing, for example, when I'm leading substance use groups, I'm not in recovery. Addiction's impacted my family, but I am not in recovery. So I can't go in and say, oh, I've been where you've been. This is going, like, I need to be aware of that, just about, hey, what's that like for someone who's not been through it to speak about something like this? How am I speaking about that? So I'm speaking for myself, but those are some things where when we're talking about trauma informed programs to be on the lookout for.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you just copy and paste in my notes.
You got your notes ready?
I was like, dang, this is all of my notes that I had. That
Oh,
being
well, I mean,
said,
you do this too as a therapist. I mean, one doesn't have to work at an organization to be working to make sure they're providing trauma informed care.
mhm, yeah. I guess the other thing I kind of had to like kind of like pair in with that is some of those common trauma traps that occur in traditional recovery models. Um, so I don't want to like be uber critical, but also I do want to like point out some of these things just aren't great. Some of this, there can be some shame-based language that occurs in some models. So like that clean, you're clean or you're dirty or kind of wording that can, trigger trauma survivors. Some of that rigid abstinence only models that may dismiss the complex needs of individuals who like have co-occurring trauma that's like intermingled with those struggles. Um, some programs have a sheer lack of bodily awareness. They're talk-only approaches, and it can be limited when trauma is stored somatically for some people. And then there are some programs that have a weird power dynamic. So authority figures in recovery groups can unintentionally recreate trauma dynamics if they're not trauma informed with that power differential.
Yeah, if you come in, I don't know, just sometimes you don't know how people are coming in. Um, you just don't know what's going on, and we need to be respectful and mindful of this as practitioners, as people. Um, I don't mean like, I mean, I don't even mean this like in a silly way. Like, I mean, you can be a trauma-informed program and not be a mental health or substance use facility. You could be a trauma-informed church. You could be a trauma-informed daycare. I mean, there's so many ways of like incorporating this. So I just want to make sure for those who maybe are listening and aren't maybe healthcare providers, like there's lots of ways to do this or aren't therapists. I mean, I know, Tiffany, for a fact that you and I both have met with many, many clients and we have heard about their healthcare trauma. And we've done different episodes to talk about healthcare trauma. And I think if we were to look at some of the things that we've heard about, there are issues with safety, with transparency, with collaboration, with feeling empowered, with addressing some of those issues. And so, um, I don't know. I don't think this is something that even has to be a negative thing. And I know maybe there's people out there that think this is DEI or, attacking or not relevant. But I just want to say, trauma informed is what allows so many of our veterans to engage with healthcare systems. I mean, trauma informed, we've talked about this before. Uh, is knowing not to ask somebody very offensive questions. And, I won't go into what all those are, but that's being trauma informed, knowing what to say, knowing that someone who just had a panic attack maybe doesn't want you to come up and hug them. Maybe they don't want to be touched. Uh, there's just so much. I think there's just so much. So I don't think this has to be a negative thing because you have to have a lot of privilege to not see, I think, why this is important. And I really mean that honestly, of like why we're being trauma informed. Maybe to throw out to some of those who would maybe challenge, trauma informed does not mean if someone has trauma that they aren't impacted, they don't have to live by the rules of society, still engage with systems. It just means, hey, where you can accommodate, accommodate. It costs almost nothing to just accommodate and try to include someone in the system, try to make those better outcomes. It will take a little more time on the front end, but if someone's not getting escalated, somebody's not having a crisis, you're going to end up saving time and you're going to help that person more. And I want to share it from an altruistic perspective, but also from a whatever outcome you're measuring, I almost would guarantee you will come out ahead by working to be more trauma informed than not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, making sure that you're just grounding yourself in those trauma-informed lens techniques.
Yeah. Um, so one thing, is just more on the provider organization side, it's just, we need training, we need support. So there has to be training to have some of these conversations. We need to know what is going on for people. We need to know uh, how to be on the lookout. The world changes very quickly. We
Mm-hmm.
won't get into all the things twirling in the world as we record this, but there's a lot of things going on politically. There's a lot of things going on where we live in Cincinnati. Uh, there's a lot. So just education and support, but also we need each other. We're not meant to do this by ourselves. So, if you're a police officer, if you're a nurse in an ER emergency room, if you're a counselor, we are not meant to go through this on our own. We need support. We need that vent person. We need that support person of like work's been hard. Um, in every field, but certainly ones where it's more intense and we're getting exposed to trauma.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing that I try to remind anyone and everyone that will listen is that, like, we aren't a species that was intended to do everything independently. We are a
Mhm.
communal species, and the more community you have, the easier it's going to be to deal with some of these difficult things. Hmm. So, on that note, one of the recovery programs that I found that I was curious, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, is Nikki Meyer's Yoga 12-step recovery program.
No, I don't want to lie. No, I'm not as familiar.
Okay, so I'm not an expert on that. On this program, I just want to throw that out there. This is just one I came across, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. The core message that this recovery program kind of follows is the issues live in our tissues. I thought was interesting. Um, so it's a yoga program that integrates trauma-informed principles from what I found. Again, I'm not an expert on this program, never ran it, never been in one. It focuses on a mind, body, spirit connection where it combines traditional 12-step principles with yoga, meditation, and trauma-sensitive practices. It has bottom-up regulation. So yoga supports nervous system regulation, which is crucial for trauma recovery. It focuses on community healing. The group aspect mirrors the 12-step support, but is grounded in non-hierarchical, compassionate peer support, which I thought that was pretty cool. Language and space. The yoga 12-step facilitators are trained to avoid triggering language, which allows for modification in movement and provides choices throughout, which honors autonomy and combats powerlessness in those group meetings. And I'm not sure how I feel about this point that I found, but it says that it's polyvagal informed, which just means that it emphasizes how yoga and breath work tone the vagal nerve and shift individuals into a ventral vagal state. That one is still something I'm exploring, and I'm like curious about all this vagal nerve stuff, but I am no expert. I do not want to say it works or it doesn't work, but that I found was an interesting point of that
Yeah,
program.
I mean, in general, that's nervous system informed. Like everyone has a different nervous system. I think we were just talking about this off mic before we started recording. I was like, I think we just have to, and maybe I know I'm changing because I work with so many veterans, but like I'm working with like the VA and things, and it's like once you see the data driven approach, and I am a data nerd, it's like we just need more data and evidence. And so maybe that's just like I gotta get with some of my counselor friends and we need to do some research studies and get some data because I believe in the work. It's just I think right now it's hard that we just don't have the same data. And I think the challenge is like some might say, oh, we don't need that data. That's an archaic system and other, but it's like so I feel kind of caught in the middle if I'm being honest. Like I hear and I've seen the value. I've personally benefited from using some of those modalities for myself. And also like maybe we just need some better ways of being nuanced about it, of like what's the first line treatment, what is the first go to, then what is this, just kind of like if you remember Tiffany when we were in school, like okay, you start with this and then try this. It's like I think sometimes the order of operations is where I see therapy is a very wide net of how people approach some things beyond the safety screening intake. I think we're all pretty much on the same page about that.
Yeah, and then that's kind of why I was like, major disclaimer around the vagal nerve. Like I know, again, not an expert on it, but I know some people use it in therapeutic practices, and then like goodness, you Google vagal nerve and all these, I don't even know if you devices pop up, and I was like, I haven't really taken the time to dive into this, and I don't want to say that it doesn't work because I can imagine some people feel it probably does do wonders for them. But I do also wonder, like, where is that line of like, this is helpful for some people and this is becoming like a therapeutic gimmick that some companies are playing off of?
Yeah, and yeah, I do think we have to watch out for what's a gimmick and what's, hate to say what's, but just what's evidence, what's data driven, what's
Mhm.
really getting to the importance of some things.
Yeah. Soapbox for later.
Yeah.
Ah, I don't know if you have any other points on that.
No, I think this is a lighter discussion. I think today it's something that I know we're all interested in, and something where I think it's got different angles we could approach. But in general, I do appreciate everybody just letting us have some of this dialogue today.
Hmm. Yeah, I did have two questions for you since more
Of
familiar with these
course.
groups. If someone has tried recovery in the past and it didn't stick or it didn't work, what would be a way for them to consider like either a different program or like potentially not fall into that self-blame of like it didn't work because I didn't make it work thought pattern, which I've seen sometimes.
Um, it's a great question, Tiffany. I would say talk to people you feel like you can legitimately trust that have good intentions for you. Maybe that's a sponsor, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend. I would say there are programs that are better than others. We all know that. But like, I will also say if you connect with the counselor, you are in a place where maybe you're more open. Like there's so many factors. And so I guess don't let some of the treatment failures or program failures or counselor failures dictate your life, and sometimes I'll talk to people about like when you shoot yourself in the foot, it isn't shooting me in the foot, even if you're mad at me, it's just shooting you in the foot, even though it can feel cathartic sometimes to do that. Um, and I have to speak to probably some people who are involved in the justice system. There is less autonomy and choice sometimes. And so in those situations, it's like, okay, like what can I get out of this? What can I manage or deal with.
Yeah. Sounds like making sure that we are just focusing in on that safety and connection rather than like a potential system that's not working for you.
Yeah, I think it's just it's hard to listen. Um it's hard to know what is the thing and also know what is the place to come from. And I would just maybe, as someone who can at times buy their own bullshit and does that. Just see if you can check yourself. I don't mean to be crass, but I can spin myself a tale about why I need to go on Amazon today and buy something, even though I don't. But I can spin myself a tale and really believe it. And that's hard, and sometimes we think we're convincing other people, but we're not. So yeah, I don't want to pretend to have all the answers to that one, but just knowing that it's hard to maybe find some of those options sometimes for people.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I have left that I want to just mention is healing itself isn't just about the sobriety. It's about feeling yourself again, and focusing on what helps you feel safe and connected during that process.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Any last minute comments from you, Eric?
No, I don't think so. I tried to not go too far off the rails like I can be known to do. So I even tried not to come with too much coffee.
We always need coffee though. But it was pleasure being here with you guys. We hope to hear from you soon. You can follow us on Spotify and other major listening platforms. And of course, you can always hit us up on our Patreon.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Deciphering Growth. We hope you found our conversation helpful and insightful. Subscribe to our podcast for more episodes and check out our Patreon for more content. Don't hesitate to contact us on social media if you have any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep growing.